Brock Rice. How are you, my friend?
Good, brother. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you.
Good. Appreciate you having me, man.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for being here.
Of course.
It's yeah, you've definitely been on my mind for a guest for a while now. Just working with Stillwater and just crossing paths here and there. So it's definitely cool to have you in here.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, it's exciting. I'm super excited to get into it with you. And obviously there's a lot we can break down for people because there's a lot that people don't know about the back end of what takes place, but I'm really excited to break it down with you.
That's it's actually really intriguing to share the deeper aspects of why we do things, because a lot of people don't know what it takes to build anything or to provide any service for people. And it's been really cool to hear the feedback from what people are receiving from these episodes, just going deeper into an artist's process or running a business, because we really only see the highlights for the most part,
Right.
you know, but I mean, there's a life that's being lived inside of that process. And it's a pretty cool perspective.
Absolutely.
So you have a lot going on, man. You're always doing stuff.
Yeah, we're trying. We're making moves.
Whether it's the media marketing or your vlogs now that I'm seeing more of.
Right.
What's your process, man? What's your mission?
Man, so the mission is big. I think one of the biggest things that we like to focus on is really just the creative. I think that's what drives a lot of what I do. From a business perspective, it's really about kind of developing things that allow me to live a life on my terms, really, you know. And from the beginning, I knew that I didn't want to work for anybody. So it was kind of a matter of figuring out what business model I need to build around what I can monetize, and what abilities I had to be able to monetize, you know what I mean? So it was a long process of, you know, even when we first got introduced, it was still building the foundation of what my business has now become, and just building those relationships as far as, you know, you got to meet a lot of people to build the kind of relationships that are going to translate into success in business. And so it was a long road of just kind of building those relationships and meeting different people that opened up different avenues. But yeah, man, the mission really just comes back to creating a life on my own terms. And that's what I've always been about. It's what I want to do. I want to be able to just travel and work for myself, you know, really build an environment for people that they enjoy being in. And then I want to give a lot of people an opportunity to do what they love as well. And what, you know, that's kind of what I've found is more so my ability is to provide an environment that allows people to do what they enjoy doing, you know, but also monetize on that.
It's beautiful when we can provide people an opportunity from our own experience.
Absolutely.
Or our own hard work and platform and relationships. Like, we've recently realized that we are a form of media. And we can help people promote their albums or their businesses. So that recognition with our reach and audience has been pretty profound. And it's really come to light when someone's been in and we've shared something and then it's done very well through other people. So it's a really beautiful feeling when you can provide that for the people that you care about and that are also working hard, you know?
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the great things about just a podcast or, you know, like you referenced, the vlog. All these things that we kind of use to be our creative expression allow us so much opportunity, open up so many doors, connect us with people that we would never be able to get connected with. And it just builds the most real and authentic relationships, just being able to break it down with people, but then also be able to share that message, you know what I mean? And it's the beautiful thing about a podcast like this is we can really just sit down and talk like we would normally, and people get the opportunity to listen in and get a take on, you know, maybe how we see the world or other people that you've had in, how they see their business or their life or where their foundation was built. And I think you hit the nail on the head, man. It's such a beautiful environment. And with what we're able to do in 2020, it's crazy what we're going to be able to share or, you know, how we can get a message across and just get people to see a little bit more of who people are. Because, you know, as you mentioned, it's everything that people see from the front face. You know what I'm saying? So they don't know a lot about what goes on in the back end, or they don't know what's being thought about or planned or the strategy that goes into these things. So, you know, there's just a lot to break down for people. And I think when we're able to give that insight through something like a podcast, people just, their eyes open up to a whole different realm of, and I know from first-hand experience, like listening to some podcasts or listening to some informational pieces, just all of a sudden something hits me and I'm like, wow, you just get clarity on it. And so I think it's one of the most powerful things about media content creation is just that inside information that can just open your eyes up to completely new worlds.
100%. And you nailed it too, right there, with someone sharing insight and it really registering for you. That's happened a lot when somebody that is successful is vulnerable. And then somebody who hasn't reached their level gets to recognize that they're also people, and that people struggle. Doesn't matter what level you're at. So to have relatable information and content for people to actually ingest and digest, man, it makes the process way more realistic. And that's dope.
It is. It honestly is.
It's dope,
it's
man.
So awesome.
It's cool to watch that process unravel and to watch other people have these recognitions that they can actually do it too. It's not just this unattainable, unachievable venture, but you can break it down for people to show somewhat of a step-by-step process and give them a platform. It's cool.
I love it.
And then you nailed earlier kind of talking about your foundation. So I've had XPAND for over 5 years, and I believe it will always feel like you're building the foundation. I don't think that
As
feeling ever goes away. Because the second you add more verticals and pillars, you got to add a whole different foundation, right?
Yep.
So there is this interesting balance of feeling undone and done at the same time, perhaps the entire journey, which is kind of cool. But it's also a feeling that I don't think a lot of people think that they'll be feeling the whole time. So how do you actually be within that pocket of creation, but also patience? And it takes a lot of time to hone and harness how not only you should be doing that as a person, but how the business should be moving in general. Because there's certain industries and business models that should be more patient, or that should jump ahead multiple steps. So it's fascinating to kind of learn what the movement needs as well.
Yeah, it's funny with people. I think that we have a natural tendency to, set goals, and once we kind of get there, it's what's the next goal. And I think kind of similar to what you're talking about now, it's this idea that we're always kind of building. The foundation is always being redeveloped, but at the same time, I think the beauty is in understanding that there's a ton to appreciate about the journey. You know what I mean? And just honestly, the fun side of it, the enjoyment side of it comes from really stepping back and enjoying all these different steps that it takes to get where we're trying to go. You know what I mean? And I see so many people getting wrapped up in they're not where they're at, they're not where they're trying to go right now, or they're not in the place they want to be right now, when in the reality of it, if you kind of take a deep breath and look around, there's so much beauty in what's happening around, the process, the struggle of getting where we're trying to go. You never get the same struggle twice. You know what I mean? And it's like when people kind of let it sink in, and mind you, this is something I've just been focusing on these last few years, because it's been hectic movement from leaving school and kind of starting my own business to figuring it out, and just, kind of wheels turning in mud almost. It's been a process of just kind of getting a grasp on how I really want to see the world. And one of the things that I really think that gave me a whole different sense of happiness and fulfillment is really enjoying the process. You know what I mean? And it's easy for people to say. It's one thing to say and enjoy the process, but it's a whole different thing to let it sink in and, kind of realize like, okay, maybe I don't have the money I want right now, or I don't have the relationship I want, or the situation I want. But one of the things that I think people need to buy into wholeheartedly is that everything is happening with intention. You know what I mean? None of these things that are taking place are happening by mistake. So at the same front, it's look around, enjoy what's going on around you. I mean, you want to be on the biggest podcast in the world, but one of the things to look around is look at how many great people we got around us right now, and we get the opportunity to talk about some real things. You know what I mean? And it's something that we could so easily get wrapped up in the idea that this is a piece of a puzzle and we're trying to get where we're trying to go. But at the same time, if you kind of sit back, I mean, just look at how many great things we have right now. And so that's been something I've been trying to focus on really heavily, is just intaking all these moments because we don't get them back. You know what I mean? And so many people, I feel, just get wrapped up in the motion of this life and lose touch with what we should be focusing on, which is just like the moment, you know? And it's easy to talk about. It really is easy to talk about. But at the end of the day, if you can grasp that and kind of really buy into the fact that this stuff is happening for a reason. I don't believe in the slightest that this stuff is happening by mistake. It's almost a non-negotiable for me.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This stuff is happening, and we're talking to the people we're supposed to be talking to. We're spending time with the people we're supposed to be spending time with, and the things that are happening for a reason. So if you can kind of buy into that notion and understand that all this stuff is very intentional, then I think it just opens up different doors of happiness for people. You know what I mean? Just sink into the environment you're in and enjoy the journey.
You nailed it, man. There's a few things in there. One would be, with that kind of perspective on the world and trying to be more present in the moment, knowing or feeling that everything's happening for a reason, it really helps me personally do my best to learn as many lessons as possible in that moment. Because why are all of these pieces coming together? Like, what can I learn here that literally won't be possible to learn in 40 minutes because we'll be in a completely different moment, right? So that really helps me delve deeper into the present moment and having you guys in here and having this discussion. And if in an hour, you won't be here anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like, what gems, what doors are opening while we are here right now? And it's really cool to highlight the aspect of the process opens the doors as well. And if you don't start the process, what opportunities or doors are going to be opening? Right. And that goes really deep into the concept of like, just do it.
Absolutely.
For real, just start doing it. And it doesn't matter necessarily the quality or your ability to begin when you are beginning, but the process of you beginning is going to help you and I meet. It's going to help meet people like Chris Gethin, etc. And or drama, right? Like, if you don't do your freaking path and your mission, you have no idea who is literally waiting 40 feet away from you, man. Like, it's so bizarre.
So true.
You've had a really cool journey so far, man. And you've been around people like drama, which honestly, I really liked that episode. There's some wisdom in there, man.
There really is. He's a smart guy.
For sure.
He is a really smart guy, and he just kind of, he came up around the social scene, so some of that gets lost in the motion. And I think he deals with similar stuff that I do. You know what I mean? With what I put out, the content I put on display for people, it can build a perception that is pretty inaccurate to who I am. You know what I mean? And so one of the hardest things to do is kind of manifest something that allows you to put who you really are on display. And that's why I love podcasting. But yeah, that episode was great.
Yeah. Well, what's so cool about a 60-minute episode, it's hard to fake yourself for 60 minutes.
Right.
You know what I mean?
True.
And people are intuitive, man. They know more than they think they know. And I think we can really feel where a person is coming from, like deeply, subconsciously. I mean, we're primordial beings, man. We've revolved around evolution and survival and someone's intentions and their energy and all of these different things. But you being around people like drama and having these interviews and traveling and doing your own content, what have been some of the biggest lessons you've learned?
Ooh, man. I think it's been a lot of different lessons. To be really honest, I think one of the biggest things that I've learned recently is that I spent a lot of time kind of just doing, you know what I mean? And even in that stage where I spent those few months traveling, building content around guys like Matt Morgan, drama, big interviews like that, it was almost like I was just kind of caught in the motion of it. And I wasn't paying a ton of attention to lessons I needed to learn or, I wasn't being super insightful to the way that I was going through life. Like I wasn't moving with intention. And one of my good friends has been talking to me a lot about that lately. And it's just been so profound and opening my eyes up to so many different things. And it's changed the way that I move. It's changed the way that I think. It's changed the way that I act in different relationships. But to answer your question, I think that one of the things that I learned, honestly, through looking back more so than being in the moment, is just that I really want to sink into every moment. And I do a pretty good job of it organically, and great things come of it. It's why I have a relationship with drama now. It's why I have a relationship with Matt Morgan. We do our podcast just like me and you do it, and we're sitting there having a conversation and they resonate, you know what I mean? And because it's coming from a place of authenticity. And so it's like you said, it's impossible to fake this stuff for this long. It's impossible to fake it when you put out the volume of content I do or anything along those lines. When you're doing things like you're doing with consistent podcasts, it really opens up a window for people to see exactly who you are. You know what I mean? And so in that same sense, it's like when I'm interviewing these people or we're talking to them, after the interview's done, me and Matt are just talking and we're buddies now. You know what I mean? We're texting and having conversation. And this is a guy that if I didn't find this avenue of podcasting, I never get in touch with him. You know what I mean? He's one of the biggest players in the CBD game. He's the biggest in the world right now. And I never get that line of communication unless we put ourselves out there and, like you said, just do it. You know what I mean? And I think if people can take away one thing from this point in the podcast, it's if you have an idea or you have something that kind of fuels you, you need to just do it. Like, people are worried about, if the logistics don't make sense, if you don't have the things you need to do it, if you don't have the right microphones, the right earphones, you know what I mean? Like, if everything's not perfectly in place for you to do it at the scale you want to do it, you got the wrong idea. You know what I mean? It's as soon as you open one door and you walk through that door, you're going to see a hallway with plenty of options. You know what I mean? And then everything is just kind of sky's the limit at that point. And so I think one of the biggest things people need to just move towards right out of the gate is just doing. You know what I mean? And we've kind of mentioned over it a few different times, but at the end of the day, it's kind of the foundation of why we're sitting here, why we're in the place we're in. Honestly, speak for myself, it's why I'm having the success I'm having in business. It's why my brand is where it's at, because I just did it. You know what I mean? When I left school, I'm like, man, I see all these people doing YouTube. I see all these people doing Instagram. I had a little bit of proficiency in the Instagram space, but man, I was completely out of touch with the social side of things. I didn't know anything about content generation or creation or videography or any of this. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, I opened one door, and ironically, it's how we met, and I bring on Stillwater as a client when, mind you, I've never brought on a client. You know what I mean? At that point, I didn't even know how to run a digital media agency. I'm just, scrapping it out, providing Tyler as much value as I could provide him. You know what I'm saying? Bringing in the most value I possibly could at a very low cost for him. You know what I mean? And when I saw the value I could provide, okay, now I'll take that very small contract and go build something around that concept and grow. You know what I mean? When you put your feet in the water, you're going to ultimately develop at a very fast pace. And, in my opinion, people that are going to find success one way or another, as soon as they get in it, they're going to start moving. So yeah, I think that's one thing more people should buy into, that if you're ready for something or you've thought about something, it's time to do it, man. It's 2020. Like, how about you let it sink in for a minute that we just closed a decade and you get one life? Like, when that sits into people, like, come on, man. What are you doing? Let that sink in. You get one life. You know what I mean? Like, why are we not doing everything that fuels any sense of passion? You know what I mean? If you got something in your mind that you think would make you happy, you think you'd enjoy, do it. It's really that simple.
It's really important to recognize that anything we do on this journey helps us do other things on the journey better.
Absolutely.
Like you traveling and doing the interviews and being around those people, that ability and those moments are literally helping your future self do something better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the process of doing is really important. It doesn't matter if it's, so I've been a fitness coach for like 8 years.
Right.
That instruction and coaching people helps this go smoothly.
Right.
Right. Learning how to word things and how to be around somebody when they're trying to figure something out or express something or ask a certain question. All of these different moments help the full picture of what we are doing and even the things that we don't even know that we're going to be doing. And it's so funny because I'm a very patient person and I will wait for the proper moment to move on something. Like it took us 3 years to digest the idea of doing the podcast and then to do our first episode.
Right.
Like we researched the gear, we did everything. We talked to all my friends who have a podcast and we gathered as much information as possible before making the move.
Right.
That resonates with me very deeply. But then also, if you want to be actually doing something for the next 10 years of your life,
right,
those first 50 episodes with potentially shitty gear is going to help you develop a skill set that's going to help you get to 800 episodes or more. Like it's so subjective and depends on where we are and what else we have going on. Do you have a full-time career? Do you have other things that are happening and you're trying to delegate your time and energy and resources so that everything builds efficiently and smoothly, not just has this burst and then crashes, this other burst and then crashes, and then 8 months later you pick it up again.
Right.
You know, there's an interesting balance and maybe that's the right move too, because everything happens for a freaking reason, man.
Right.
It's so bizarre.
It is crazy. And I think like you're kind of talking about one of the things that I've noticed just with people, because, you know, one of the things I like to say is most people are professional plotters. You know what I mean? Everybody wants to sit around and talk.
Dude, I love that.
and it's so true. I mean, if you look around, like everybody's got something to say. Everybody's got a plan. Everybody knows what they think they're going to do. But at the end of the day, like if you notice or you kind of just take a look, it's like people that put actions to words are usually the ones that are successful, even if they're not doing it right. You know what I mean? It's like in a perfect case study to look at is YouTube. YouTube is a matter of metrics. If you do it and you do it long term, you're going to be successful. There are some people with some of the biggest YouTube channels in the game. And I promise you, half the people listening to this would be more successful if they just would have done what they did. These people are just, and with YouTube, the actual reference, if people are interested in that space, it's if you spend about 18 months active on YouTube and you're posting consistently, you're going to find incredible success. The search engine optimization on there literally fuels what you do. The resource is just incredible, and they basically position you to win if you're consistent. So at the end of the day, and that's so similar to a lot of things in life. And I think that, you know, kind of like we're talking about, some people will take the time like you did to set up and prep. Great. If you're a person of intention and you're going to do those things and then follow through, that is probably the best way to do things, to really be, you know, very intentional about your actions and set a plan and really follow that plan. Then that is probably the best way to do it. But at the end of the day, most people are going to try to kind of build something in their head, and then all the things that happen naturally and organically take place, and you start putting in the self-doubt. You start thinking like, oh, this is not going to work, or what are people going to think? It's one of the things that I think has changed the way that I've found success, is because I just never focused on those things. I was always doing so much, and I was always trying to just push myself to do the next thing, that I wouldn't allow myself to take the time to think what people thinking. You know what I'm saying? And then down the road, when I did have to get to those thought processes, I just kind of started sitting back and I'm like, well, I don't even care what people think. You know what I'm saying? I will be organic and authentic to who I am. And then people can make up their mind, because if they've got something negative or they're dealing with some kind of negative impression of me, that's something they're dealing with on their end. You know what I mean? And I'll be here being the same person I've been. And when they come around to see the value in what we do, or the authenticity that we provide, or the vulnerability that we bring to the table, then the real people resonate with that on a crazy level. And it's in my opinion what attracts so many great people to you. It's what attracts so many great people in my life. It's like, if you're just going to be yourself and be who you are, you're going to bring in the right people. You know what I mean? And back to our main point, everything happens with intention. So the people that you need, the people that are supposed to be there, are going to be there. You know what I mean? So it's kind of just living in who you're going to be.
Yeah, 1400% agree.
Mm-hmm.
That
I mean, it's real, man.
it is, man. That's been one of the biggest lessons I've learned on this journey
Mm-hmm.
is like the more genuine that I become with myself, the more genuine that I become with other people and vice versa. And what that's done for the people around me, it's almost unfathomable
Absolutely.
to, in a weird dynamic, put out a ripple of presence
Mm-hmm.
and have other people resonate with that ripple and that energy and that frequency, and have someone else's ripple bump up against you, and you're like, oh,
Right.
what's up, bro?
Right.
What the fuck you doing? And then you can like kind of mingle and feel each other out, and then go across your separate ways and
Mm-hmm.
feel that there was something there, come back, work with each other, etc. But that's also in the process of being present too.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not noticing those things and I'm only eyes where I feel like I want to be going,
Right.
and you're going to miss a lot of opportunity.
Yes.
And that's like such a crazy modern dynamic, I think, in the Western world is how do we set goals but also still be in the present moment while still being open to the unknown?
Right.
It's bizarre.
It is. And I think that's one of the things that our generation struggles with incredibly is not really understanding everything that you have right in front of you. You know what I mean? It's like almost everybody that I come across, with the exception of people that are doing a lot, everybody's wondering, how do I get to the next step, or how do I get where I'm trying to go? Or, it's like we talked about at the beginning, man. It's so true though. And if people can just get back into the present moment and, like you're saying, really intake what's happening, that's where all this stuff is created. And you have no idea the amount of opportunities that you could open up if you would really just sink back into the moment. You know what I mean? Just take in some of the relationships that are right around you. You know what I mean? And it's just so valid. And at the end of the day, I think it's kind of what needs to fuel this shift, especially for our generation, is that we've got a lot of, young millennials, post-millennials that feel like, I need to stop doing what I'm doing right now and go pursue my purpose. You know what I mean? Well, you're in your purpose, okay? And the thing is, just because you think that this purpose needs to be fulfilled by dropping everything that you're doing and go travel the world or whatever, I mean, great. I want everybody to pursue what they have love for and passion for, but at the end of the day, like, sink into what needs to be done. You know what I'm saying? And just kind of buy into the mission, buy into the process, and then, just take it one step at a time. And then if you can do it and you can take it one step at a time, just enjoy the ride. Like, learn what you can learn, spend time with the people you can spend time with. And I think that's one thing we can definitely talk about is the real currency here, and the real value in what we're doing is building relationships. Like, and I was just listening to something the other day that just hit me so heavy, and it's what fuels what I'm doing with my team, what I'm doing with my friends. It's all about relationships. This is not a game of money. This is not a game of who can travel the most or have the most likes on Instagram. It's none of that. It's literally about the relationships we build. And at the end of the day, like, we're not going to be upset about the millions of dollars we didn't make, or the boats we rode on, or we're not going to even think about that stuff. We're going to be thinking about the people we spent time with, the family, the relationships we build, the progression of our soul. Like, and that's a whole route we can go deep on, because the real purpose here is getting lost in the commotion. You know what I mean? And I think if our generation can kind of shift the perspective on what we're really here to do, I think that it can change a lot for people as far as where you're sourcing happiness. You know what I mean? People think that if you get those 10,000 followers on Instagram, all of a sudden you're going to be happy, or, it's this endless search to go get that new desk, and that new job. And then once you get that new job, you're looking for the next job. You know what I mean? So if you actually pay attention to happiness, and you notice that these people that are on this bag or paper chase, and they're trying to go make all this money, I've seen firsthand dudes who have gone and made $500 million at the expense of their family. at the expense of spending time with people that they loved. And let me tell you, I watched them burn relationships. I watched them burn friendships with their kids. It's real. It is so fucking real. And if you don't let that sink in, that the currency that is of value in this life is relationships, then I promise you're going to spend a long time running on a treadmill that's not taking you anywhere. You know what I mean? And I'm just trying to get better and better and better at it every day, because I spent so much time trying to get to where I was trying to go. And mind you, this is coming from a place of experience. I was on the other side of it, where I'm like, I'm on this mission. I got to go get the bag. I got to go take care of business. I got to go meet the people I need to meet. When in reality, it's like, oh shit, look around. Like, I've got the people that I love. I'm in the motion that I enjoy. I'm working with the businesses that I love. I've got the people around me that I love spending time with. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it's like, kind of take a step back a little bit. You know what I mean? And let's figure out what the actual driving force of this life is. And I think it's one of the things that can absolutely unlock different doors for people on the lines of happiness.
It's really powerful, especially with how we can even look at the concept of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Is it so that you can get somewhere? Is it so that you can one-up somebody? Or is it for the moments we share and the lessons we learn?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that, even that alone, like, you can tell yourself that you're doing it for relationships, but like, what is that ulterior motive?
Right.
Or are you really trying to be with beautiful people,
Mm-hmm.
create beautiful moments, learn lessons that we can share around this table?
Mm-hmm.
And you have lessons to offer, and I have lessons to share. And what would that build?
Mm-hmm.
What can that build? An ability for us to potentially help other people down the road by sharing similar wisdom or
Right.
experience. And when we meet those people, they'll have wisdom and experience to offer and share.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the concept of that we can truly learn from everybody during any moment is so unbelievably valid. So valid.
Right. And I think people aren't really looking for that. You know what I mean? And if that's the switch up that people can make, it will help a lot. You know what I mean? And the validity is there for sure. And it's just a matter of buying into the fact that that's what is taking place. And if you're open to learning, you're open to listening, the universe is infinite.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The amount
Yeah,
of things.
for sure.
And, you know, we can get into a whole belief system of why I feel the way I do about it. But at the end of the day, it's like, I just had a really great person come into my life recently, you know, within the last 6 months, and they've just changed the way that I see so many things, and it's so unbelievable. And to be honest, I think one of the things that can give insight to people, because I think that I do this to other people, in the way that she talks to me, and the way that we have these unbelievably deep conversations, similar to, you know, even how we're talking right now, we talk on a regular basis. And one of the things is that she always pushes me to see the constructive criticism side of things, almost, you know, where she's presenting something to me that is essentially a flaw that I have. Like, and the thing is that so many things that we grow up doing and the motions that we go through transition into who we are and the habits we have and the decisions we make and the way we treat people, you know. And so just because you act one type of way and somebody is allowing you to see a different side of it, or they're being honest and vulnerable enough to show you something, you don't need to be closed off to that. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to be resentful of somebody being honest, or you're going to be upset that somebody's trying to push you to be your best self, then you are absolutely in the wrong. 110%. Because if you don't want people around you trying to push you to be your best, then I'll speak for myself. You don't want to be around me. You know what I mean? I want the people around me to see the best version of themselves. I want to pull that out of people. I want them to see all the potential and opportunity they have. And back to what I'm saying is this person in my life, she's pushed me to just see things completely differently, because all the past 5 years I've spent going through things that shaped who I am. And that was a lot of stuff, from being a coach's son in a smaller state where everybody kind of knew me for what they thought they knew.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had this perception of who I am, where it led to all these different things. And it's just been so eye-opening talking with her and several other people that are just giving me honest feedback and changing the way that I act, changing the way that I present myself in relationships. And it's unbelievable to me the amount of tendencies I have with different people, different relationships, and breaking those habits to shape who I want to be. You know what I mean? It's like we're just in this process of designing who we are as a soul. You know what I mean? I think almost unanimously we can agree that our body is just the vessel. You know what I mean? We're just in here using this body. And so what are we really working on here? You know what I mean? We're really working on the soul, the thing that's actually inside of us. You know what I mean? And I can go so deep on this because it's so real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like if we're all in this progression of trying to learn who we are and develop who we are, if you're not making an effort to learn and you're not open to people that are trying to help you grow, then you need to reevaluate. You know what I mean? And I see it day in and day out, people that are stuck doing what they're doing, and they've almost lost sight of what we're trying to do. You know what I mean? Why are we here? Why are we going through the things we're going through? Why do we have to deal with hardship? Why do we get in and out of different relationships? You know what I mean? Like these are all learning lessons. And so, you know, back to the main point, it just comes down to I'm so appreciative of people that want to push me to be my best self. I'm so thankful for people that want to have conversations with me that allow me to see things differently, you know, and I am a strong-willed person. And I think a lot of people are that way. But if you can kind of shift towards being open to how other people see the world, being open to different energies or the way that things affect other people, I think it'll change everything for you. I think it'll change everything. And it's just a matter of being receptive. You know what I mean? People have value to share. And some people don't see that. Some people, it's their world and you're living in it. You know what I mean? And which is fine. Everybody kind of goes through that, I think. And I went through that in high school. You know what I'm saying? And so everybody's got their stage. And ultimately, one of my biggest beliefs is just that we are on a mission of soul progression. That is it. We are here in this physical world to learn these lessons, to go through the things we need to go through, to learn what we need to learn to become who we're going to become. And that's honestly the mission. You know what I mean? That'll pause you for a minute. That's pretty deep. But I mean, it's real. People need to let it sink in.
So this goes back into alignment with the people around you.
Mm-hmm.
Our purpose and mission with XPAND is for the evolution of consciousness. It's for soul progression.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally our purpose, bro.
I love that.
It's literally to help people build better environments to grow up in.
Right.
And to be around with better resources and behavior and intentions and all of these components that build what our soul is even able to do in that moment. A lot of it's about accessibility. If you...
I agree.
You know what I mean, dude?
I agree.
If you don't have a microphone to record shit, you won't be able to record things.
Right.
If you don't have an ice bath or something like a meditation place in your house designated for that, you're probably not going to meditate or take an ice bath.
Right.
We have to have these things in our environment that provoke us to delve deeper, to grow and evolve and fucking learn lessons,
Right.
man.
Right. That's what it's all about.
It really is, dude. And only knowing you to a certain degree, more so from the outside looking in than anything, it's really freaking cool to hear where you're coming from. It's fucking dope, man.
Thank you, bro.
Like, because we can perceive so much on the outside, right?
Absolutely.
And that's where, like, I had absolutely no expectation on this episode. I knew you just to a degree and was open to wherever this discussion went, as with most people that walk in this room. There's something happening with our generation, bro. There's something happening.
Right.
We're picking up on something, man.
I agree.
It's freaking powerful.
It really is, and it's so cool to see a lot of people doing it. You know, the term that comes to mind is almost enlightenment, but it's a word that establishes things that I don't think need to be established, because this is not a goal of who's going to be enlightened and who's not. It's not about that. It's about just. And I think it goes back to what you just mentioned earlier, and we need to touch on this, which is accessibility, okay? I think it's the best part about our generation. One of the things that one of my guys, Gary V, talks about, obviously, is the fact that social media is not changing who we are. It's exposing who we are. And in the same sense, having accessibility to this information is what's shifting so many things. And let me touch on this, because I think it's something I've been thinking about a lot. I think two things. Number one, I think there's a reason we're getting excessively smarter, and that we are changing the way that the world is operating. People our age, younger than us, 10-year-olds, have access to YouTube, have access to any information they want to get. Now, all of a sudden, as opposed to 20, 30 years ago, when the only time you're getting real value from a person is if you're sitting face to face with them and they can show you what they see, or they can teach you what they have to offer. Now, in 2019, going into 2020, we have access to unbelievable amounts of information. People that are putting all of their thoughts out there. They're putting all of their information out there for whoever to go intake it. And if we were born 30 years ago, we would not be who we are right now. We would not have access to the information we have access to. We would not have access to the people we have access to. And ultimately, this point comes back to accessibility. And it's what's making our world shift at a crazy pace. So as opposed to seeing the negative, which is the fact that we are being exposed by social media, our huge sense of judgment, our lack of compassion and love comes through social media, because this is a judgment game. You know what I mean? These social platforms are judgment platforms. But at the end of the day, like Gary says, it's exposing us. But if we shift that and look at the positive, it's unbelievable the opportunity we have to learn. You know what I mean? I mean, someone like Joe Dispenza, somebody that one of my buddies put me onto recently, this dude is absolutely profound. Unbelievable. If you listen to him, he will open your eyes up to a whole different world. And the thing is, 30 years ago, we would not have been able to have a conversation with this guy. We would not have been able to listen to this guy. We would have had to fly somewhere and go listen to him on stage and got that 1 hour of intake. I've listened to this dude 25 hours in the last 4 weeks. You know what I mean? And so it's just, at the end of the day, we have such an advantage with accessibility to information. It's unbelievable and unparalleled to anything we've ever seen. And so essentially what I've been thinking about a lot is the transition we're making in humanity, where we can learn so much and you can really become exactly who you're meant to become, because it's not an accident, but you get all the things that you need. You know what I mean? And so everybody listening to this podcast, everybody with a phone, everybody with a computer can become exactly who they want to become, because the information is literally one click away. It is one tap away. And I think that's something that people should really buy into, is that this is not a negative thing for us to have all this social media, for us to have these resources like Google and like YouTube. You know what I mean? These things that are consistently deemed negative are some of the most valuable assets in the world. I mean, it's literally unbelievable. And so I think that's one of the things I've been thinking on a lot. And so, you know, back to the main point, accessibility is changing everything. And I think people need to really look at it from a different perspective and use it as their tool. And that's what I've done with Instagram. It's what I've done with YouTube. It's what I've done with social media. Are you kidding me? Like, social media was something that, to be honest, for a lot of years in my life was pretty negative. You know what I mean? If people could see the amount of direct messages that I get, or just like, with people got an opinion, great. But I took this asset we have, which is this social ecosystem, and monetized on it. You know what I mean? And so it's literally about how you perceive things. And the accessibility to information is something that people, I would highly recommend to make a perspective shift on. This is one of the things I absolutely love about you, is you're just so real that you can tell people that are listening, and you can tell people that are just, hearing. And somebody that's listening is digesting information and doing what you do, where you're like, oh shit. You know what I mean? Because it's one of my favorite feelings is when I'm talking to a really smart person and they tell me something, and I'm like, because it comes back to another thing. It's like, we have all these opportunities to live in the moment, and then we have all these opportunities to take from the moment. And when you hear things that actually are of crazy value, you can take those, implement them into your life, and right there you've made a complete change. And right there you've done something that can change your whole life. So back to what we were saying, if you're open to the moment, you're open and receptive to information, it's crazy what can happen. And like you do really well, you listen. And it's not just with me, it's with all the other guests I've seen. You know what I'm saying? It's just when D-Mac dropped some fire the other day about, anxiety and not getting wrapped up in the motion of things and all that, and I just look at your reaction. It's like, shit, you know what I mean? That hit you. It's real. And just the same, when I'm listening to the podcast, watching it on my phone, I'm not sitting in the room with you, but he says that, and I'm like, damn, that is so real. That resonates with me on a high frequency. You know what I mean? And then I take that and I'm like, 100%, I'm implementing that into my life. And the minute I implement that, I'm different. You know what I'm saying? I'm changed. And one of the things that my girl that I referenced earlier told me, she's profound, man. But she was like explaining to me one of the things that, and this is two things that I want to address. We are all like a rubber band. Once you pack too much into it and it stretches out, it's not going back. You know what I mean? Once it's too far out, it is not going back. So the more you learn, the more you change, the more you shift who you are, you're not going to see the world the same. And it's why it's so great to learn and take in information, because we're just developing who we are. And if you can get more information that stretches your rubber band, you'll never be the same. You won't see the world the same. You won't make the same mistakes. You won't do the same things. And so I think it's one of the things that fuels my learning, which I am just now getting into this stuff, guys. Like, I'm just now getting into reading heavy. For the longest time, I was opposed to reading. But, I transitioned through audiobooks, learning that way. And I'm just now in the full swing of loving learning. And on another note, I think it's the sad thing about what our school system's provided. It's built this fear of learning in people. And it's built a bad taste of education, which is sad, because it's like everything that learning and education should be about gets lost in the fact that we all fucking hated school. That's why I got a brand called World Class Dropouts. We got to change the thing about how people see learning. You know what I mean? It's got to be about growth. It has to be about growth. And the other thing that I was thinking about when we first kind of got on this topic, one of the things that's affected me a lot is that, kind of like we mentioned earlier, for the first 5 major years of my life, let's say 13 through 18, people had a perception of who I was. And one of those things that fueled that was sports, and my competitiveness coming out and that stuff. Great. So whatever took place shaped people into how they saw me. Well, all this growth that takes place, one of the things that I've been talking to some of my friends about is all these things that have taken place and who I've become and who I'm turning into and the person that I'm ultimately going to be. People have no frame of reference for that stuff. You know what I'm saying? And a perfect example is just, I'm talking to one of my family members the other day, one of my cousins, and, organically, they're putting me down based on a perception that they remember me for. Mm-hmm. And it's so crazy, and it's critical to remember that people are changing every day. And you have to almost, if you're not at an arm's length distance, meaning you're almost not interacting every day with a person, you really don't know them. You know what I mean? Unless they're stagnant, they're changing every day. They're going through their things. They're developing who they are. And that's one of the biggest things for me is like even my family, my cousins, people that have my same blood don't really know me. And it's the crazy thing. And so, yeah, man, we're going down a lot of different avenues, but it's just crazy because a lot of things come to my mind. And it's one of the things I've been just paying attention to is how the universe works. And all this stuff has been conversating in my life recently. I've been having these conversations. It's so crazy that we're here talking about it now, you know, and it all comes back to what we're talking about, which is what's meant to be will be. You know what I mean? And this stuff is very intentional. And we're having this talk. Somebody, maybe you, whoever you are, wherever you're sitting, wherever you're listening, maybe this information was supposed to be said for you. So what's it going to do for you?
Oh, shit.
I mean,
Bro.
I'm honest.
Bro, that's a fucking mic drop.
If I could drop the mic, I would.
Dude.
I mean, what's your take? What do you think? What hits you? I mean, have people always kind of seen you the same?
For sure not. Family thinks of me a certain way.
Right.
It's so fascinating when any kind of relationship, everybody has a certain lens of who we are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, literally, there's a million versions of you that exist right now.
I agree.
And it's how every person views you. There's literally different versions of yourself that coexist with who you are.
Right.
So, like, how do we hone in on our genuine behavior and where we are, who we are, and do our best to build that? Because that's the only thing that we have control over. We have no control over how we perceive each other right now. Mm-hmm. But we can delegate how we behave.
Right.
And how we feel internally. And one of the best things you just shared in that whole segment was that it all boils down to perception. 1,400%, bro.
Mm-hmm.
It's how we perceive the moment we're in, the information that we receive.
Right.
Now, you said it right in the same context of me listening. I'm perceiving the information in a way where it's deeply resonating and aligning with deep, already absorbed meaning.
Right.
Now, how easy would it be for a person to perceive that information? Oh, I already know this. What the fuck are you talking about? I've learned this years ago.
Right.
That's how you're perceiving the moment, bro. So are you perceiving in a way that like, oh, fuck, this person's truly feeling something very similar here? That is literally how we perceive everything, and how we delegate how we perceive, and the information that we are around, bro. All of the accessible information not only shows us so much about the planet and people and civilization as a whole in our species, but being somebody who's been meditating for over a decade, it also shows us who we are and how we behave.
Right.
And how we feel.
God, that's
and
so right.
It's one of the biggest things that it's one of my favorite Bruce Lee quotes, is essentially along the lines of everything around you shows you who you are. It shows us how we feel about things.
We are in a mirror world.
It's fucking crazy, man.
You're right.
And are we only projecting onto other people, or can we take a moment to fucking reflect and sit back and feel the flow of the information, bro? It's going through internal and external worlds.
Right.
Period. Always, during every moment possible.
Fact.
Are we only focused on one of those? And that's where like depression becomes a fucking thing too, is when we go too deep internally.
Right.
And there's worlds in here that have fucking portals and doorways and pathways into depth, bro.
Yep.
So how do we find this beautiful balance where our ecosystem, our environments are fueling really beautiful moments?
It's so real. Okay, one of the things I want to talk to you about, I've recently got into the meditation game, and has it changed a lot for me. First thing is, highly recommend getting into meditation. If you're listening and you're not ready to go yet, get the fuck ready. It's unbelievable. And just to give somebody some insight to the way that I see it, and I really want you to give me your insight, because I mean, you've been doing this, man. Like a decade of meditation is habitual habit. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, you have real perspective. My perspective is just that it grounds you. And mind you, I have not been doing it consistently or for a long time, but every time I do it, I know exactly how I feel. It grounds you at the beginning of the day. When do you meditate?
All day.
Okay, just throughout the day?
Every moment.
Really? Okay, you're going to have to talk to me about that. But for me, mine is a 20-minute meditation. I've been sticking to the same one. It's an abundance meditation in the beginning of the day, and it really just sets the framework for my day. It sets the day for how I want to see things, how I want relationships to come into my life, how I want money to flow, and the whole center. And if anybody wants to do it, it's the Bob Proctor abundance meditation. Pull it up on YouTube, 20 minutes of your day. I promise you it'll change a lot for you. So speak to me about how that works for you, meditating throughout the duration of the day.
There's so much information happening.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Every moment, every day. When we lose perspective on how the information we are around influences us, we can potentially become pulled in directions that we do not want to be in. If we're able to feel where and when we are more aligned with path, with purpose, we are better able to make choices and behave along a frame of alignment that helps produce and build that. If we mindlessly move through the world, we should be right here, but we're way the fuck over there. And now it's like, that's where people like don't know what the fuck they're doing, is because there's such a deep disassociation from like their actual deep internal being.
Right.
Which.
And do you feel like it's a lack of moving with intention?
No, actually, we talked about this in DMAC's episode. It's continual refinement of intention. We can have intentions.
I like that.
And so intention is subjective. Intention is, it's always happening whether or not you recognize it. Mm-hmm. So your intention could like to not want to hurt someone's feelings too. So like there's a lot of intention that happens, but it's how are we regrouping and regrounding our behavior to align with our deep purpose? And it's learning what that is. Learning that when we are vulnerable and open up and feel that we are actually precisely where we should be during as many moments as possible, it builds a feeling of you have a frame of reference on when you aren't where you should be. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the most important things people can recognize. Like, dude, I could be at Albertsons right now. Mm-hmm. Like, what choices would I be making to be there right now when we are precisely where we should be in this moment?
Right.
And it's continual meditation, bro. Sensation is presence. Presence is sensation. Ooh. So I wrote my final paper in college on mindfulness meditation.
Okay.
And when you attune with the feeling of the sensation of your breath, the default mode network of the brain shuts down. Wow. This is what is associated with the past and the future. Mm-hmm. Your brain's ability to remember memory or produce the future shuts down. and you are brought so deeply into the present moment. We are feeling sensation in every single moment possible. The breeze in the room, this chair pressing against my body, my jeans pressing against my skin, the pressure of my left elbow, my right hand on the table, my feet on the floor. That's presence. If we're able to feel as many things in the moment as possible, bro, those are like anchors into the moment. And you can feel them adjust and smooth and flow and breathe, and a person come in and the energy in the room change. There's a lot that happens in every single possible potential moment. Now, this is deep, bro. I don't know if I've like truly presented this perspective to people, especially
it's
not
so
here.
valuable. It's so valuable. So to touch base on what you're saying right now, one of the things to give people tangible information, one of the things I notice you do a lot, which is, to be honest, something I've noticed, one of the things a lot of the most profound, intelligent people I've ever spent time around do, those real breaths you're taking where you're really sinking back into the moment. That's your continuous meditation. Is that right?
There's also a space between the breath.
Right.
Like, it doesn't end, bro.
Right. But that's how you keep yourself connected to the moment.
That's how we can go deeper.
And I see that. And when I do it, because I don't do it a lot, because that's kind of how my mind works, is I almost always have the next thing that I'm thinking about. And when I slow that down, I mean, when you were just talking, might have been one of the first times outside of meditation in my life I've felt every breath. I was just feeling the energy of the room. Like, I can't really articulate how it felt, but it's fucking wild. And it's crazy. So, but I want people to have tangible information. So one of the things that I think leads to the way that your energy is so powerful and so real and so authentic is what people are hearing right now, which is you taking that breath in that brings you back. And I think that was so real what you said. If you can detach yourself from the past and the present, the past and the future, and really be fully bought into the present, it makes you feel completely different.
Chemically different. Bro.
Literally.
Like, your chemicals change in your body's makeup.
Yeah.
Like, for real.
I've just felt it. It's real.
It's real. And that feeling is a feeling that we know when we're present or not.
Oh, wow.
You see what I'm saying here?
I see. I follow.
It's a frame of reference, bro.
Wow.
You've been downloaded with a sensation.
Fact.
And then you can feel that sensation and harness and hold and hone into it and breathe deeper through that, bro. That's how you go so deep, man.
And it's so powerful.
It's so powerful and possible.
Very.
And another really important thing to mention or highlight would be paying attention to how we're perceiving within those moments. Is it from a non-judgmental platform, or is it through judgment and insecurity and all of these different patterns of thought that can be produced? Those can be perceived as recognitions on where we are, not where we think we are. If I think I'm present, but I'm like up in my mind, like that's a way to like, okay, hone back in. Like, our foundation is ever flowing, ever changing in every moment possible, dude. Our foundation goes with us wherever we are. And if we don't understand what our true foundation feels like, then we can be caught up in our thoughts and think we're in our foundation. The body, bro, I've really had this recognition recently. I think it's really fucking profound. Our body is always in the present moment. It's never in the future. It's never in the past. Our body is always present. So if we feel that, we're automatically going to be brought deeper into where we are. Like, there's depth in why meditation works, dude.
True.
For thousands of years.
Right.
Holy crap, man. I did not expect this episode to go this direction. This is amazing.
It's amazing. And so I think one of the things we should do is I think that people get out of touch because our world is so active it's full of commotion. And I was talking about this last night with this person, and she was pointing out to me, I have a tendency to not detach myself from noise, from chaos, from movement, from people especially. I always have people around. But if you can sink into the moment, remove yourself from all the chaos, people need to be okay with silence. And one of the things that made me think of that is just a minute ago when we took a pause and you were taking a breath and there's 10 seconds of silence. How many people are significantly uncomfortable in 10 seconds of silence? So let's have the whole team take 3 deep breaths led by you. And our listeners, if you're listening, take some breaths with us. And I want everybody to sink into the moment. And then we'll make a little bit of a transition from what we're talking about now, which is honestly everything that people should be listening to, which is what builds us into who we are, which builds a foundation for the success we're going to have. But we'll make a quick transition into more actionable things related to business, because that's obviously where I've found more of my success and where I think I can deliver very tangible information for people to take and put action to. And we want to be able to deliver value for you guys. So we're going to give you some actionable information, but I really want to take some of these breaths and get grounded with our boys and with the team just for the day, because it's crazy what I'm feeling right now. Like,
it's real.
It's so real.
It's so present, man.
It's so real. So take me through some breaths so we can get grounded, and let's deliver some value.
So to throw in just a minor adjustment to what you share, which I love this idea, man. 6 breaths. Okay. For people who don't know, 6 optimal breaths bring you deeply into the parasympathetic nervous system, which the sympathetic is stress, anxiety, not being able to focus. You take 6 deep breaths, like scientifically proven across the board, man. It will lower your ability to be more calm and patient. Now, the optimal breath rate is 5 seconds in through the nose, 5 seconds out through the nose, which is 6 breaths a minute. If you can breathe 6 breaths a minute, you're creating homeostasis through your entire nervous system. Wow. If you're breathing more than that, you're more in the sympathetic. If you're breathing less than that, you're deeply into the parasympathetic. It's a very good gauge.
Okay. And I want people to be diligent about thinking about, we're going to do this for 1 minute. Think about, after the fact, how long this minute feels. And that's going to give you all of the insight you need to the fact that this life is moving very, very fast. If you don't realize that you're in the motion of things and then all of a sudden you look down at your phone and it's 9 hours later, think about how long this minute feels. And you're going to slow it down with us. The team is all in here. We're all going to do the breaths. And I absolutely love this, because just like we've been talking about this whole episode, you give me this information and it just clicks. And it's like things that I've understood, and I'm in hot yoga and I'm breathing this way. And then I'm like not really understanding what's taking place. And then someone like you, who has real value and real information, articulates it the way you did. And it makes absolute concrete sense. And now I will implement 6 5 in, 5 out breaths throughout the duration of my day consistently, because there's nothing better than feeling grounded. So I absolutely love it. Take us through it.
Yeah, so everybody, just naturally breathe here. Don't try and force anything. All the way in, all the way out. Follow the tempo of my breath. We're going to go 6 deep breaths here. Just feel what's going on. Be aware, be present. And all the way in, breath 1. last one.
It's incredible.
In the beginning, I was feeling my heartbeat through my headphones, and breath 3, 4, 5, 6. It was getting much slower.
Me too. I could hear it in your breath. Your first one was a little bit shorter, and they progressively got longer, and that's how I felt too. And it's crazy, when I opened my eyes, the light felt different. My energy felt different. And it's almost that I don't have a sense of anxiety, but I'm always like, oh, what am I supposed to be doing next? We've got a whole photo shoot all day. We've got videography stuff all day. And I'm always thinking about, okay, what are we going to do? What do we got next? But just taking that minute to just slow down and breathe, you can get back to where we're supposed to be, which is right here, and realize that nothing else that we have planned, nothing else that we're thinking about matters. We're right here.
Before we transition here, first of all, thank you for that. That's freaking beautiful. It's really important to highlight that, like, I do my best to be as grounded as possible, but that doesn't mean that we can't become more grounded or more present. And like you said, you can even hear that in my breath, right? It doesn't matter where we are, where our foundation is, we can always go deeper. And that transition was happening through those 6 breaths. Like, it was, you could hear it. You could feel it. That's freaking powerful, man.
Yeah, I hope some people think about what just took place. I mean,
Damn.
really, there's a lot to take from that.
Bro, all right.
That's powerful. So yeah, let's transition for people, because I think there's a lot we can add for people as far as just getting a better understanding for like, that's the first thing. Everything we just covered is something that you should work on first if you have not to this point. That stuff is going to lead to happiness. That stuff will lead to fulfillment and success. I promise you. The things we're about to talk about next, I can give you every blueprint. That's honestly, if I have a gift, that is it, where I can retain a crazy amount of information. I can articulate it back to people. I can go to these big events. I can join these mastermind groups. I can learn the actionable things that need to happen to take people from point A to point B, and I can deliver that to people. And so the point is, I can give you all the things you need to get where you're trying to go, but if you don't ground yourself and build the foundation for real happiness, the money, the success, the fame, the family, whatever it is you think you're setting out to build, will not be fulfilling unless you figure this stuff out first or along the process. So let's transition for people. You kind of take us through this. What do we need to add to people's life? What business value, what actionable things do you think people need right now?
Well, it's really important to understand that it's a process of development through motion.
Right.
And sometimes there's motionless motion or effortless effort. And what I would just offer before I ask you a question would just be doing your best to be as present as possible through the entire process. What's working, what's not working.
Right. What's
registering, what's not registering, what's being recognized, what does something feel shady in your organization, or do you feel like it's gonna blossom into something different? Like, what's actually happening in your internal world of recognizing what's going on? Do you have an intuition that's being triggered and you're ignoring that shit? Or are you like, okay, there's something speaking up a little bit. Let's pay attention, see how it unravels, how it unfolds without judgment again, just being aware that it's happening.
Right.
That's like how we really begin to delegate through proper motion into something. But it's a very broad question, kind of what you were asking, because is that for business tactics? Is it for social media? Is it for audience reach? Is it to promote a product? Like, there's a lot of things that.
Right.
So essentially, where do you want to go with this?
I want to be able to give people something very tangible outside of building the foundation stuff we're talking about. Because one of the biggest things that I think we should address is that this journey is different for everybody. You know what I mean? The self-discovery, the understanding, the things we're talking about, everybody's going to get at their own pace. You know what I mean? And back to what we've talked about this whole episode, which is really the root of our episode right now, is intention, you know, and everything happening for a reason. And so you're going to find it at your pace, and you're going to go through the things you need to go through. So really what I think will be of value to people is just kind of maybe giving you a little bit of a framework on how to build almost anything, whether that's in business, social media, building a brand. It all essentially comes down to similar concepts. So we can almost pick a facet of business, and I think one of those that can provide people the most value, and my instinct says that people that are listening to this have some connection to social, have some connection or desire to build a brand or build a business. So I think where we can go is let's talk about the actionable things to build people's brands that ultimately build your business and translate to monetary returns. So, you know, I guess the breakdown for what we'll break down right here is let's talk a little bit about how to build an audience, how to take that into your business, and then ultimately monetize on the back end, which happens organically if you do everything else the right way. So let's ask you first, what were a few of the things you did to build your audience? Because that is the first step in brand building and building a business. Whether you're building a business and you focus on finding your target market, deciding on your demographic, your niche, finding who is looking for your product, or if you're building a brand and you're figuring out who needs the information that I can provide. What did you do to build your audience?
So I probably won't respond like most people,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just the way it's gonna be. I really started to focus on community engagement. So there was a moment where XPAND was doing very, very, very well, and then all of my clients for training dropped off in like 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So then I had to make this transition from building something that was unsustainable to something that could actually be sustained for a long duration.
Mm-hmm.
And I went deep into social media. This was years ago, and deep into the community engagement. And this really comes back to me from being genuine,
Mm-hmm.
being able to also allow the people to come into your world that should be coming into your world.
Mm-hmm.
And you do that by being who you are, by actually responding to people who are interested in what you're doing. Because if they don't feel supported, then they're probably not going to support you in a weird dynamic. It's a weird thing that I've experienced, and I want to support the people who are supporting us. Like, it's fucking cool when people reach out and send you messages that
Right.
what you're doing is meaningful for them. Like, that's a fucking human being,
Mhm.
dude. That's a person on the planet
Mm-hmm.
who is registering with what you're doing.
Sure.
That goes beyond money, bro. That's a fucking human
Mm-hmm.
who has a world inside of them.
True.
And of course, with the podcast, working with people, I mean, not even who have an audience, but we grow every episode
Mm-hmm.
because when they share it, you get people from
Right.
their platform
Right.
and their audience and their family and friends, bro. So it's this toppling over effect that it just builds momentum and it keeps doing its thing. And if you provide value, the right people are going to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're trying to mimic something or try and not be who you are, what people are you attracting? People that you want to fucking be around and work with
Mm-hmm.
or provide information to? So there's this aspect too of that intention and that foundation of where are you actually coming from? What direction are you heading in? And for me, it's a process. Like, it's so weird in the dynamic of I've been posted on people's social media who have 400,000 people,
Right.
but it only caught a little bit of traction in terms of our audience.
Mm-hmm.
I've been posted on people with 1,000 people, and we blew up because of their engagement in their community and their family and friends. So You never freaking know, man.
True.
You never know.
True. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head right there. The first thing that people need to do is develop the authenticity. So figure out what it is that is your mission statement of your business or of your brand or of your podcast or of your vlog. It does not matter. If you're going to deliver authenticity, you will grow. People resonate with authenticity. So the first actionable thing we'll put to paper here is develop something that is authentic to you, authentic to somebody, or authentic to a situation, and people will resonate with that. That is the number one fuel injector for a business, for a brand, for a community, authenticity. So that is absolutely number one. And then building an audience, that's what people want to hear. People want to hear the real stuff. You know what I'm saying? You know how many more people are going to listen to this and enjoy me and enjoy the way that I speak as opposed to watching my vlog? You know what I mean? Because it's a totally different catalyst.
Yeah, dude. It's like, it's an hour and a half of us being people.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And it's authenticity. And that's where it comes from. And so that is key number one right there, is authenticity. Now, one of the things you kind of talked about is growing your brand. And we'll kind of jump into this a little heavy. So I'm going to move kind of fast through this. So if you have a background of building businesses, building brands, or this is something you want to think about, maybe we'll do another podcast at some point breaking down more tangible information. But I'm just going to swing through this for anybody that wants more actionable information. Like, you start with this progression of developing a mission statement and building a concept, or essentially what we referenced in the beginning, which is plotting on what the plan is. Then you put, actions down, and you go to build the content, you go to build your audience. Now, one of the things you touched on is leveraging something like a podcast that allows you to bring in outside people. And, when I go to post it, then 26,000 people are going to see it, and they're going to get an opportunity to come. You do one with Chris Gethin, hundreds of thousands of people are going to see it. But one of the things is, and you kind of mentioned it, there is a ton of value in engaging with small, intimate communities. People that are trusted by other people that may only have 1,000 followers, 1,500 followers, 500 followers. It does not matter. It really doesn't matter. Everybody's got their community, and it's more so about who resonates with people. So the concept here that makes the same thing about podcasts successful, that makes, and I'll speak to it from a tangible piece of information, one of the things that I'm going to do in developing my vlog is bring in people from outside situations to be collaborative on the vlog, to be engaged in the vlog, to do fun things with us, because I understand that when they bring their community in and give their community a taste of what we provide, just like how I will be posting this, and everybody listening in my community will get a taste of what you provide, and they will resonate with it on a very high level, and the people that are supposed to transition into your community will. And the other thing people need to understand is, by doing this effort, by growing things this way, a business this way, a brand this way, you're never hurting your brand, your business, by providing value to someone else's, ever. By me posting this interview on as many platforms as I have, it is not going to hurt me at all to have people transition over to you. At all. This is a complete misconception in business. The competition is limited. Competition is not something you should focus on. You should be endorsing people that support your message. You should be endorsing people that support your mission. And by doing so, you're not losing them. You're engaging with them. You know what I mean? And so that's a big misconception within business. It's a big misconception within brand building. By promoting other people and building people up, you are finding crazy success. And if you need a case study, look at some of the biggest influencers in the world right now. If people are unaware, influencers are anybody that have a huge following within the social ecosystem. They have essentially influence over a community. Well, the biggest influencers in the world started on this little app called Vine. And what they did is they collaborated together. Guys like King Batch, guys like these people you guys now see all over Instagram and Facebook, the biggest influencers in the country, they understood this concept. They were not growing at a slower rate because King Batch would endorse his other 3 homies, and then his other 3 homies would endorse him. And it created this basically merry-go-round cycle of consumer engagement that allowed them to scale their brand excessively. So the point is, with that case study, we saw the value in collaborative effort. And it is exactly what I implement into my business with 2 guys you're looking at right here. They both understand they have a ton of value to offer in their space, videography, photography, and by bringing those people together and understanding we can push a mission here, you know what I mean? They're not losing anything. They're only gaining. I'm not losing anything. I'm only gaining. Plus, we get to enjoy being around one another. We get to enjoy times like this. We get to enjoy the experience. You get what I'm saying? And so people need to buy more so into the fact that everybody can win. Everybody will win. But it's just about implementing strategy, and it's about implementing vision within a community. And I think that's what I do well. I think that is one of the things that has allowed me to have success, is that, and maybe my guys can be a testament to that, but I pull the right people together and I get them to see the vision of where we can go, because I think it's one of the things that most people struggle with. And me and my guys have talked about this a lot. It's just that they almost don't believe in themselves as much as I do. You know what I'm saying? Or somebody believes in me more than I do. And by pulling these right people together and putting the right mission, you know what I mean? Then all of a sudden it's, oh my gosh, look at what we can do together. I mean, just our last shoot, we're about to shoot a Jeep ad today. Our last shoot with Lexus, we all were just feeling this energy. We're like, oh my God, look what happens when we rock together. You know what I'm saying? And when people get a taste of that, it's unlimited. So it comes back to the ultimate point that you're not going to lose anything by collaborating with other people. You should be working with brands that support your mission, and that will ultimately in turn allow you to scale your audience, which you build by adding value and being authentic.
And those moments too that you guys can reflect and feel success in a sense, it's very worthwhile and very fulfilling.
Absolutely.
And everybody's work is coming together to build a moment, and it's freaking dope to experience for everybody.
Right.
Because you feel this momentum, this energy, and it's like, yo, we just fucking did that.
Right. That's
like,
how we're
feeling. That
feeling.
just happened.
Yeah.
It's cool, man. And then to watch that blossom and grow and spread and everything, it's what keeps people on the path. And I would freaking love to have you back, bro, and go deeper into that whole process.
Yeah, absolutely.
We are an hour and a half, dude. That just freaking flew by.
That flew.
Whew.
These guys are like, that didn't fly by.
Do you have any remaining thoughts, man?
No, man. I really appreciate everybody sticking with us. For those that listened all the way through, you know, taking your time is we need to be appreciative of that, because that's the most valuable currency we have. You know what I mean? You don't get more time. So my last thing is, I'm really appreciative of you guys. If you want to find me on social, great. Please go find me. I'm more than happy to connect with whoever. We'll set it up. I'll absolutely come back. You know, this is just inspiring me to bring the podcasting side of what I do back. So maybe I'll just have you on my podcast next. But
yeah, man, I'd be honored.
Yeah, I mean, I want to just swing it back into the vlog. You saw how I was doing it originally. It's the best way to do it, in my opinion, just to be super authentic, show the whole thing, and just, you know, show the whole transparency of how we go throughout our day, and then real conversations like this. So I really appreciate you having me, bro. And like I said, appreciate you guys for sticking with us. If you got anything from the episode, please just do one thing for us. Share his podcast. That's ultimately what this comes down to. We're not making any asks. We're not trying to sell you product. We're not doing anything. The thing you can really do to help this community is share the episode. Share it with somebody. Share it through your social. Because at the end of the day, you're helping the process. Think about what was said over the course of this episode. If you can get it connected to one person that you think it will help, then you've made a difference. Then you've provided value to us. You've shown that you appreciate the fact that we're spending an hour and a half, 2-3 hours out of our day to build this kind of thing for people. If you can just share it to somebody that needs it, that's all Aaron needs. And I think at the end of the day, it's how you can really show appreciation for the fact that this takes a lot for him to do all this, guys. Like, if you're still rocking with us, we appreciate you, and make sure you get that information out, because it's going to help somebody if you share it.
Word. Damn. Thank you, bro.
Of course, brother.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Everybody in here. That was freaking phenomenal.
That was unreal. Appreciate you guys. Everybody have a great day.
You're always welcome back, man.
Thank you, brother.
Much love.
Much love, family.